The first time I saw the surveyor's flag planted at the edge of my property, I felt a chill crawl up my spine. My sprawling land had been in my family for generations, tucked away in the rolling hills just outside the city, a place where the wind whispered through the tall grass and the sky stretched endlessly above. I had always imagined it remaining untouched, a sanctuary where neighbors were few and trees plentiful. But here they were, officials from a local HOA, clipboard in hand, discussing plans to erect 96 homes on my land. 96. My land, my sanctuary. I was furious. At first, my mind raced with lawsuits, injunctions, and midnight stakeouts. But as I listened, something shifted. The HOA representatives weren't malicious, they believed they had a claim. Somehow, somewhere, paperwork had gotten tangled, and they genuinely thought this was their land. Fighting them would take years, and in the meantime, these families were already planning their lives around these homes. I paced the wooden floors of my old farmhouse that evening, the sun setting like molten gold behind the hills. My family had always taught me one thing above all else: justice is important, but kindness is divine. Could I stop them and ruin the dreams of families who had already envisioned their futures here? Could I wield my legal power and still sleep at night? By the next morning, I had made my decision. I would let them build. Every home, every garden, every fence would go up under the sunlit sky while I watched quietly, silently, from a distance. It felt like stepping into an impossible kindness, a test of patience, of restraint, of faith in humanity. The construction crews arrived, and soon the sound of hammers, saws, and trucks filled the valley. Children began playing among the half-built homes, laughing through the dust. I would drive by on occasion, waving at the workers, even helping them with a suggestion here or there. They knew me only as the landowner who let them build, and they treated me with respect, unaware of the storm brewing quietly in the background, one that would eventually give me everything back. Weeks turned into months. The houses rose like a small town from the earth, immaculate in their uniformity, each with a freshly painted porch and neatly trimmed lawn. I couldn't help but notice the little things: the mother coaxing her toddler into the new swing set, the elderly couple laughing as they planted a tree in their yard, the teenagers playing soccer across what had been my open fields. My heart ached with both pride and sorrow. One particularly quiet evening, as the sun dipped low, I walked the perimeter of the newly completed neighborhood. I paused in front of the last house, a small one with a blue door and flower boxes under the windows. Inside, I imagined the stories unfolding: birthday parties, late-night conversations on the porch, quiet mornings with coffee on the deck. A strange warmth enveloped me. I realized then that this land had not been destroyed, it had been reborn. But as the weeks passed, I knew my legal advantage still remained. The deed was mine, indisputable. I had consulted lawyers in secret, preparing a move that would take the HOA by surprise. And when the day came, I walked into the courthouse, the sound of polished shoes echoing on marble floors, and laid the deed on the table. Silence followed. The judge looked up, astonished. The attorneys from the HOA froze, realizing that the land they thought was theirs wasn't. My heart beat steadily, not with triumph, but with an almost surreal calm. "I am reclaiming my property," I said, my voice steady, but under one condition. "Every family that has built here may stay. Every family that has dreamed here may continue to live here. The land is yours, to the extent that it has become your home." The room seemed to hold its breath. Whispers of disbelief circulated like wind through the courtroom. My lawyer nodded solemnly, my eyes scanning the faces of the HOA members, who were as stunned as anyone. I had expected arguments, resistance, negotiations, but the words were final, clear, and rooted not in revenge, but in compassion. The decision rippled through the neighborhood like a gentle wave. Families hugged me, some crying, some laughing, some just staring in awe. I could see the relief in their eyes, the gratitude, and the sense of security. The tension that had hung over the valley like a storm cloud evaporated in an instant. For the first time in months, I felt the profound weight of what had just happened. I had the power to punish, yet I had chosen to give. And in giving, I had gained more than I could have imagined. In the weeks that followed, life settled into a rhythm that felt both familiar and extraordinary. I walked among the streets, greeted by neighbors who now called me friend instead of landowner. I helped with block parties, small repairs, and garden planting. Children ran to show me their new swings and bikes. And late at night, when I sat on my porch and watched the lights of the homes flicker on, I realized that this was what community meant: not fences or lawsuits, but shared spaces, shared dreams, and shared humanity. One day, a young girl named Emily, who lived in the blue-doored house, asked me why I had let them build in the first place, why I hadn't stopped them. I smiled, looking at the sunset casting a golden glow over the rooftops. Because, I said gently, sometimes the greatest power isn't in what you can take, but in what you can give. And sometimes, you find that giving changes not just others, but yourself. She tilted her head, thinking, and ran off to join her friends. I stayed on the porch, feeling a quiet sense of fulfillment. I realized then that letting go of anger, letting go of revenge, and choosing kindness had created something far more enduring than any legal victory ever could, a community built on trust, respect, and love. Months later, a reporter came by to write a story about the unusual case. She asked me how I could allow 96 homes to be built on my property before reclaiming it in court. I simply laughed softly, shaking my head. Because, I said, sometimes life gives you a choice, to fight or to embrace. And when you embrace, you discover that what seemed like loss can become the greatest gift of all. Word of the story spread beyond our small valley. People from across the country called, curious, inspired, even moved. Some shared their own experiences of conflict and compromise, others simply wanted to know how one person could be brave enough to choose kindness over confrontation. I told them all the same thing, that the world is full of power, but the real power lies in empathy, in generosity, in seeing the humanity in others even when it seems inconvenient. Years later, walking through the neighborhood during a summer festival, I watched as children played together in the streets, parents chatted over fences, and neighbors shared food and stories. I realized something profound. By letting them build, I had preserved not just my land, but its spirit. The land had transformed into something larger than my ownership, it had become a home, a refuge, a place of connection. And in that moment, I understood the truth that had guided me from the very beginning, that the measure of a life isn't in what you control, but in the hearts you touch, the kindness you extend, and the courage to act with integrity even when it seems easier not to. I still own the deed, but I no longer see it as a piece of paper. It is a symbol of faith, patience, and the incredible power of human compassion. The homes, the gardens, the laughter, they are proof that generosity begets more than gratitude, it builds legacies. And as the sun sets behind the hills, casting golden light over the valley, I feel a quiet joy knowing that the land is alive, not with fences or ownership, but with the living, breathing proof that goodness always finds a way. Because in the end, the greatest victories are not won in courtrooms or in legal battles. They are won in hearts, in moments of courage, in the willingness to act not out of anger, but out of love. And that, I realized, is the most enduring legacy anyone can leave.